Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Richard North. I'm part of the Gamma Eta Lambda chapter here in Austin, Texas of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And I'd like to welcome my special guest, Michael Cargill. Michael Cargill has spent the last decade championing and supporting the rights of law abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, which is a gun store here in Austin, Texas, and a training facility. He has served his country honorably in the United States Army for 12 years. Michael has trained members of the Texas State House and Senate, district judges, justices of the peace, staff of many federal, Texas, state, and local agencies, attorneys, and corporate employees on how to use firearms safely. News and organizations throughout the country have recognized his excellence and his business practices and the passion that he has for his field by featuring him in a frequent guest and subject matter expert. He has achieved national exposure in such the prestigious media outlets as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. His concern for local safety has led on to features on the local affiliates of Fox News, ABC News, NBC News, and YNN. With each appearance, Cargill has vigorously defended lawful gun ownership and in this country without regard to any party politics. With that decorated resume, I'd like to please welcome you to Michael Cargill. Ah,
Owner of Central Texas Gun Works, and uh, I guess to start off with, I do want to show you, what kind of made me get into the gun business.
A homeowner in Georgia shot and killed an intruder. Police there are investigating, but they don't expect to file charges. Now, there is a local tie to this story. The homeowner's son is Austin gun advocate and gun store owner Michael Cargill. Fox 7's Casey Claiborne joins us live from downtown Austin with that story tonight. Casey?
Rebecca, I think it's probably fair to say that this guy picked the wrong house. It happened early this morning at Cargill's parents' house outside of Atlanta. It's been a rough morning for him and a long morning, but we brought him in to chat about it. Snellville, Georgia, a little town outside of Atlanta. Early Friday morning around 4, an unwanted guest tried to break into this house. Back here in Austin, gun rights advocate and owner of Central Texas Gun Works, Michael Cargill, says his mom and stepdad live there. Bad news for the intruder.
My mother gave me a call, and she was crying on the phone, and that really scared me. And I said, what's wrong? What's going on? And she said someone, broke into the house, and your dad had to stop him. And so, my heart stopped.
Cargill made sure they had called 911 and then gave them his expert advice.
I don't want them making any statements at all and saying the wrong thing and getting themselves in trouble.
Cargill started working on getting an attorney and then realized how big of a deal it was in Georgia.
I opened up my phone to Twitter, and my goodness, it was like there were 3 news stations outside my parents' house.
This is really creepy. Imagine you're sleeping, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and you hear some sort of noises coming from the bathroom right near your bedroom.
According to Gwinnett County Police, the intruder used a ladder to get to the second-story window.
Husband retrieved his firearm, went to investigate the sounds, and when he walked into the master bathroom of the home, found a male climbing through the window. The husband fired one shot.
That one shot struck the guy in the face. He didn't survive.
They are well within their rights of using deadly force to protect their home.
So they're really broken up by this, having to, stop someone and take someone's life. It changes you.
The reason Cargill became a champion for the Second Amendment in the first place is because of his grandmother. He says at age 70, she had decided to go back to college to become a nurse. As she was coming back from the library, Cargill says she was mugged and raped.
From that point on, I decided I wanted to make sure that every female and everyone in my family had the tools they needed to protect themselves to stop those threats.
Cargill says there was a time his parents didn't even own guns.
I purchased mine first. And so I, got with them, and we've gone to the range and practiced at the range. They've come to Texas. They've taken my handgun license course. They're both license holders.
Now Cargill is thankful they wanted to learn.
And we did not want to become victims anymore. And I'm so glad today justifies, what I did, back then. Because my parents had the tools they needed to protect themselves and stop that threat.
Again, the police there say they don't expect any charges to be filed against the couple. They're still trying to figure out what the guy wanted and what he was doing there. Back to you.
All right, and I think we have one more video.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Casey Claiborne. Ashley Paredes has this night off. An Austin gun store owner stops what may have ended up as a mass shooting at a hospital when an allegedly mentally unstable man walked into the shop and started making demands. Owner Michael Cargill and his employees kept the situation under control. We'll warn you, some of this language is rough. Michael Cargill and his employees at Central Texas Gun Works have somewhat of a secret language among them. That way, when something is going wrong, they can signal each other for help.
There are certain things that we say, certain things that they do, so I know certain ways that they stand that I know that something is going on.
So when this guy walks into the store Thursday afternoon, it wasn't long before Cargill's clerk had to send him one of those signals. You're seeing surveillance footage given to Fox 7 by Central Texas Gun Works.
So I know I look terrible. It's the worst night of my life. Okay. I go to the hospital and all this terrible stuff happened. Okay. Awful. I don't even want to ever think about what happened last night. Okay. I'm not walking in this town another minute without a gun on me.
When this man came into the store, Mr. Cargill says he asked for a lot of ammunition. What did he ask for?
He asked for 500 rounds of full metal jacket, 500 rounds of ball, and 500 rounds of hollow point. And he wanted to purchase a firearm that was similar to this one, a SIG.
Cargill says he kept an eye on him through the surveillance cameras and eventually came out to meet the man and give him paperwork for a background check.
Before he fills out the paperwork, he tells me, you know what, I want a gun, I want this SIG, and I want to make sure you guys have the ammunition for it, and I'm going to go over there to the hospital, and I'm going to shoot everyone in that hospital. And I said, okay,
That's when Cargill presses the silent alarm.
I'm going to be back here in about an hour. I need 500 rounds of ball, 500 rounds of wad cutter, 500 rounds of the ones that explode, and I need some training rounds, the chalk rounds. You can shoot people with those and they're fine.
Cargill says he deliberately tried to keep the man there until police arrived.
You need your driver's license. You have an ID?
According to Cargill, the man claimed he worked for the FBI.
You call the FBI. They'll vouch for me.
Austin police officers peek into the front door and Cargill signals them to come in, pointing to the man. Officers detain them.
That's when I found out that he actually was at the hospital earlier that day. He had a hospital band on, and they had released him from the hospital because they didn't have enough beds in the psych ward.
Cargill says during the incident, the safety of his employees and his customers was on his mind.
It's important that we, got the police here and got him some help because he needed some help. And he was inside, he was asking for help. And we wanted to make sure he got that help and he wasn't able to hurt someone. So hopefully, I'm thinking, man, we may have stopped something yesterday.
Due to HIPAA laws, there's not much information that can be released to the public in this case. Austin police say they considered the man to be a danger to himself or others, so they detained him and got him to a hospital for evaluation. As for Michael Cargill, the owner of the gun store, he says the ATF are investigating the incident. They even confiscated the gun the man intended on buying.
All right, so that's a little bit about me, my family. The first video gives you an idea of why I started, doing what I do. And that was mainly because I wanted to make sure that my family members and everyone in my family, just had everything that they possibly could in their arsenal to be able to defend themselves. I wanted them to have a firearm. I wanted my family members to be comfortable walking into a gun store and, being able to purchase a gun. I wanted my family members to know what the laws were. I wanted them to know when they're being pulled over by police, what do they do? How do they act? Can they have the firearm? And because a lot of that, as long as you're comfortable in the laws and you know what you cannot do, then you're going to project that energy. And so that way, an officer knows, okay, well, this person knows what they're doing. I'm not going to, kind of go on a fishing expedition, because police officers can lie to you, but you cannot lie to police officers. And that's the Supreme Court precedent. All right. So tonight I kind of want to get into a little bit of, I'll tell you first about my family, a little bit about that. I was raised majority by my grandmother. My grandmother was partially blind in one eye and completely blind in another eye. And when I was younger, I actually used to go with my grandmother, around town. She would go to Bible study, go to church, all that kind of stuff. And I would be that, kind of like her seeing eye dog, because back then, as Black folks, we didn't have a pet or companion or something like that. That was me. That was my job for my grandmother. And so I was very, very close to my grandmother. So when that incident happened with my grandmother, that actually hurt me to my core. And my grandmother eventually passed away because that incident there, she got cancer from that and then eventually died. And I promised my grandmother her dying bed that I would never let another lady experience what she experienced before. So I made sure that, hey, I'll get the training that I need to do to get to teach everyone in my family, and I'll make sure that everyone's comfortable. And that's where we are today. And we've been here at Central Texas Gunworks since 2011. And um, we sell guns. We actually teach the most license to carry handgun courses out of any instructor in the entire state of Texas. According to the ATF, we transfer more firearms than most majority of gun stores in Texas. So we actually do a lot of transactions with guns, and a lot of students cross our doors. Even during the pandemic, COVID-19, we actually will have 120 students go through our class a week. So we do a lot of training, a lot of education, because I think that's very important. I make sure I'm there for every single one of my classes because training is the most important thing to me. And I want people to walk away, knowing exactly what their rights are and what they can and can't do. So to transition a little bit over to gun laws. I want to get into gun laws and history of gun control. So I guess I'll first start off a little bit of history. Because one of the questions we'll get in the license to carry handgun course is people want to know, how do we get to where we are today as far as gun laws and history? And so, and I take them back to like the 1600s, when the very first gun control laws in this country, it goes back to the 1600s where you could not sell any firearms to indigenous people, to the Indians. That was the first gun control in the country. The second gun control law in the country was you couldn't repair any firearms from indigenous Indians. You couldn't repair any firearms from them. The first gun control law in Texas and in the majority of states was free slaves could not have access to guns. So when you get into gun laws, the majority of your gun laws, really has something to do with people of color. And then when you get into from the 1800s to the present time, it's mainly about keeping guns out of the hands of Black people. That's what it's all about. So when you look at like Texas gun laws, you look at as far as the license to carry handgun course and the laws as far as getting a license and stuff like that. The price, used to be $140 for the license. It took me like 20 years to get the state of Texas to drop that price down because they were pricing out people that couldn't afford the license. $140 for the state fee. It was some people were charging $140 for the class. So they were pricing out a lot of people. So I came into the fold and I got them to drop the price. I got majority of instructors to lower their prices because I actually got a lot of flack from people because I was charging a lot cheaper price for the classes, and people were upset about that. So we kind of got those prices to come down a little bit. Then you get into some of the little details of the law, where you couldn't have any, you couldn't owe back child support, things of that nature. That's targeting, certain demographics of people, because if you break down the family and you destroy the family, then it makes it very hard, for the family, to do anything. And so with that, that goes a whole nother story and a lot of things down the road from that. So all the little details, of like the gun laws, really has something to do with, especially from the 1800s to the present time, with the Black community. So, and to speed forward past that, I want to get into some of gun laws around the country. It's important that wherever you are, wherever you live, it's important that know the laws in the state in which you live. It's important that can you own a handgun? How do you go about purchasing a handgun? Can you carry the handgun? Because there are laws that cover possession. There's laws that cover purchase. Those are going to be two different things. For example, I don't know how many people are actually in Texas, but in Texas, someone who's 18 years old can actually have a loaded handgun in their vehicle. The handgun just must be concealed in the vehicle. You don't need a license for that. A lot of people don't know that. I'm going to say that again. At 18 years old, you can have a loaded handgun in your vehicle. The handgun just must be concealed in the vehicle. You don't need any type of license for that handgun. And that's in Texas. So when it comes to purchasing a handgun, you have to be 21 years of age in order to purchase it from a gun store or a federal firearms licensed dealer. There's going to be a difference between possession and purchasing. To possess it, I can be 18, have a loaded handgun in my vehicle. To buy it, I have to be 21 years of age in order to purchase it from a gun store or a federal firearms licensed dealer. So if I'm 18 and I can have a handgun in my vehicle, how do I get my hands on a handgun at 18? Well, you have to get it as a private sale or as a gift. So when you get into that, you say, okay, so if I wanted to be able to have a handgun in my vehicle at 18, 19, 20 years old, then I have to get it as a gift from my parents or buy it from a private individual. Now we get into the code words of universal background checks. That's a very dangerous word, universal background checks, because what that means is if someone says they want to pass universal background checks, what they're talking about is we want to make sure that all gun transactions, people get a background check. Well, I want you to think about that for a second. Okay, so let's go back to, I want you to think about this. A big question that I get when I go talk to churches, when I go talk to different organizations around the state of Texas, one of the main questions I get is, okay, I have a family member who's a convicted felon. They did something 20 years ago, whether it's for a certain amount of drugs or whatever it was, they were convicted of a felony like 20 years ago. Now they're an outstanding citizen and they want to be able to have a firearm for their personal protection. Well, unfortunately, because you're a convicted felon, or if you've ever been convicted of domestic violence, you cannot buy a firearm from a federal firearms licensed dealer. You cannot purchase it from a gun store. All right, so you can only get it as a private sale or as a gift. And in Texas, you can only have it at home for personal protection. So, and that's after 5 years. So that means that if a person is convicted of a felony, they can only have that firearm at home for personal protection after 5 years. They can only get it as a private sales or gift. They can't walk into the gun store and buy from there. They can't go to a gun range, go practice. They cannot have it in a vehicle, cannot go to the gun range, go practice. They can only have it at home for personal protection. If you was to pass universal background checks, that means that all private sales and gifts would have to go through a background check process in the gun store or federal firearms licensed dealer. So that means that now anyone that uses that term of universal background checks are targeting people that were convicted of a crime, paid their debt to society, and after 20 years or whatever, now they're never going to be forgiven for paying that debt to society. That means that they would never be able to own a firearm at ever, so, and that's, some things I like to remind people about. Okay, so when it comes to long guns, rifles, and shotguns, the laws are different. Laws are different around the country about that. For example, in Texas, if you want to own a long gun, rifle or shotgun, like an AR-15 or AK-47, you can actually, you can buy that from a gun store at 18 years old. For a handgun, you have to be 21 to buy it from a gun store. But for a long gun, rifle, or shotgun, AR-15, AK-47, you can actually purchase that from a gun store at 18 years old. And at 18, when it comes to like having a long gun, in Texas, you can walk down the street. You can walk down Main Street, Congress Avenue in Austin, and you can openly carry or concealed carry a loaded long gun that is legal in Texas. You can have a rifle, shotgun, AR-15, AK-47 in the open. You can have it concealed, fully loaded, and walk down the street with it. That is legal as long as you're not pointing at anyone, as long as you're not threatening anyone, as long as you're not committing the crime. Just the mere fact of you having the long gun, that's totally legal. So the long gun is legal. Now, when you walk outside your door and you walk down the street and you're carrying a long gun, a rifle, shotgun, AR-15, AK-47, that is legal in Texas, fully loaded. You can have it in your vehicle, in the rifle rack. You'd have it concealed in the vehicle. That's legal in Texas. But when you walk outside your door and you're carrying a handgun, you're automatically committing a crime in Texas, unless you have a license to carry a handgun, or you're going from your home to your vehicle, inside your vehicle. If it's a premises under your control, your place of business, a watercraft, which is a boat, a travel trailer, camping trailer, truck camper, motorhome, and a horse trailer with living quarters. Now, I said a horse trailer living quarters. I didn't say a horse. So if you want to carry your handgun on a horse in Texas, you need a license to carry a handgun. So let me back up. So if you want to have a handgun and without a license, you can actually have a handgun in Texas at home. You can openly carry, concealed carry your handgun inside your house. That's legal in Texas. You don't need a license for that. You don't need a license to purchase a handgun. You can walk into a gun store. Let's say you want to buy a gun today or tomorrow. You're interested in getting your hands on a firearm. You can walk into your local gun store. You can fill out some paperwork, a 4473. They're going to have you put your last name, your first name, your middle initial, your date of birth, your height, your weight. Your social security number is optional. You're going to answer some questions. You cannot be a convicted felon. You cannot be convicted of domestic violence. You cannot have any charges pending, and you cannot be unlawfully admitted into a facility against your will. So things of that nature. Answer some questions, and then they're going to do a FBI background check on you. What's going to happen is they're going to come back with a response. Either proceed, out you go with the gun. You can be out of there in 5 minutes. Delayed, if you're delayed, you have to wait 3 business days unless they call you back sooner, because they're trying to check another agency. They're contacting, there's something in your criminal history. Maybe your name is similar to someone else's. Maybe there's something in your criminal history they're trying to verify with a particular agency, and so they're not getting a response fast enough. So it's going to take them a couple of days to get that response. Or denied. If you're denied, that means there's something on that paperwork, one of those questions you didn't answer correctly. So there's something that they're seeing that you're a no because of one of those questions. So if there's any doubts about that, you have an outstanding record, you're thinking they're wrong, which they do get false positives, then you should follow up with them, because maybe someone's using your name. Maybe they confused your record with someone else's, so you need to get that cleared up. So that does happen a lot. Right. So there's difference between purchasing, and possession. So let's go back to the handgun. So yes, you can have a loaded handgun, in the open or concealed at home. You can have it out in your front yard. If you want to go out in your front yard, you want to carry your handgun in the open or concealed, you don't need a license for that in Texas. If you want to, go from your home to your vehicle, you can have a handgun in the vehicle. You can go from your home to your vehicle and you can carry your handgun, just keep it concealed. Don't need a license for that. In your vehicle, you can have that handgun in the vehicle, concealed, fully loaded, that's legal. You can have on a watercraft, that's a boat. That's everything except for a seaplane. Kayak, you're out on the lake, you're rowing your boat, you can have a handgun on the boat, don't need a license for it. You can have one on the motorcycle. It can be on you on the motorcycle as long as it's concealed. You can have it on you in your vehicle, your car, as long as it's concealed, right? So that's totally legal. Now, if you want to get out of your vehicle or get off the motorcycle with a handgun, you have to have a license to carry a handgun, or you're committing a crime, right? So that's going to be a little different. So now, when it comes to the license to carry a handgun, you'll need that if you want to be outside your home. Let's say you want to go walk in your neighborhood. You want to walk your dog, you want to go exercise, go jog, you want to go to the store, you want to go shopping, you want to carry your handgun. For Texas, you need a license to carry a handgun. The license to carry a handgun, with that, you will be able to openly carry your handgun or concealed carry your handgun. It's one license, right? It used to be called the concealed handgun license. They don't call it that anymore. They actually call it the license to carry a handgun. So with that license, you will be able to openly carry your handgun or concealed carry the handgun with a handgun license from Texas, or a license that Texas recognizes. And that's kind of how that works. Let's see. I want to talk a little bit about coming in contact with law enforcement, because I've been getting a lot of questions in classes from people that want to know, can you shoot a police officer if they're using greater force necessary, to arrest you or something like that. So now I want to get into a little bit of, we need to make sure that we're safe, and we protect our families, and we make sure we can make it home, because everyone else cares about them making it home. I want to make sure that we know how to make it home safely. Always remember that when you're in a situation, you get pulled over by police, you're not going to win an argument, or you're not going to win that situation on the side of the road. But what you can do is you can beat them in court. So you find yourself getting pulled over by police. You think the police officer's wrong. The best thing to do is to remain calm, no matter how hard, how difficult it is. Uh, the officer is going to say, do whatever they want to do. Unfortunately, in a situation like that, you're in their world. So just remain calm, get through that stop. What I do personally is I'm very big on cameras, and I'm very big on, I have 3 cameras in all of my vehicles. I have a camera that records on the outside of all of my vehicles, one that records on the inside of my vehicle, one that records on the back, out the back window of my vehicle. So if I'm stopped by police, my hands are 10 to 2. Officers asking me for my identification, I hand the officer my driver's license and my handgun license. I put my hands back on the steering wheel. I don't like answering questions. I don't like talking to the police. I do not give police officers permission to search my vehicles. Not that I'm carrying anything illegal in my vehicle, is I don't want a police officer in my vehicle because I don't know if they're going to put something in my vehicle. So I'm very picky about that. I don't want anyone inside my vehicle, so I'm not giving you permission to search my vehicle. Where am I going? Well, I'm not going to answer questions like that. And I'm not going to say, I'm not answering your questions. I'm going to remain silent because you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. If an officer stopped you because you were speeding, that's fine. All right, here's my driver's license, my handgun license, my hands back on the steering wheel, and they're going to write your ticket or they're not going to write your ticket. Okay, there's still really no need for me to get in this long conversation with this officer about where I'm going to, where I'm coming from. When it comes to having a firearm inside your vehicle, hey, it's legal for you to have a gun in your vehicle. Officer asks me, hey, any guns inside the vehicle? I tell him yes. I have one on my left. I got one on my right. I got 2 under the seat. I got 4 in my back. I got 5 in the back seat. I got 7 in the trunk. Why, you need to borrow one? So it's totally legal. If they want to remove me from my vehicle, what I'll do is I will, allow them to remove me from my vehicle. I'm going to do exactly what they tell me to do. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to debate because I'm not going to win that situation on the side of the road. If the officer does something wrong, I'm going to make sure it's documented because I have cameras inside the vehicle, and I'm going to report them. I've reported officers quite a bit, quite a few times on different things that they've done, and I actually will push and follow through and make sure we do a report about it. But that's the best thing you can do. You can win that situation in court. You cannot win it on the side of the road. So don't get into a confrontation with an officer because the only thing we're going to do is we will, in the end, get shot, and they will be justified. And that's how that's how our laws work. So don't argue, don't resist. Get through that stop. A good thing I like to remind people of: there was a case in Philadelphia called the City of Brotherly Love in Philadelphia, where there's 2 black guys that were in Starbucks coffee, and the employees wanted them to leave Starbucks. So what they did was they called the police, didn't say anything to these guys. These guys are sitting there waiting for someone to come and have a meeting with them, and they're just sitting in Starbucks, minding their own business on their phones, doing whatever. All of a sudden, police show up, tells these guys to stand up, turn around, put your hands behind your back, and they arrested these guys, put these guys in handcuffs. Well, and I tell people in my class, you know what happened after that? They became rich. You know why? Because they didn't argue, they didn't debate, they complied. The officer showed up. They said, stand up. They didn't say anything. They stood up. They said, turn around. They didn't say anything. They turned around. Put your hands behind your back. They put their hands behind their back. Didn't say anything. Put them in handcuffs. They complied. Then they became rich. Became rich because they didn't argue, didn't debate, didn't call a question. Just let them do what they're going to do because police officers are going to do what they're going to do. If you resist, they will go harder and you will end up getting hurt or getting shot and killed. So don't fight, don't argue, don't debate. Do what they say do, and then you sue, and they will pay. They always pay. And so with that, I want to see if we have any questions. Here.
Thank you for the information, Mr. Cargill. We do have a couple of questions. First question is, can you become a license to carry? Let me start. Can you become licensed to conceal carry in Texas if you are a resident in another state?
Yes, you can. So it's easy. You can get a license in Texas here, get a license to carry a handgun here in Texas without being a Texas resident. So my parents, they live in Georgia, and both my parents, my mother and my father, have a Texas license to carry a handgun, even though they live in Atlanta, Georgia. So Now, what that is since they're not a resident of Texas, but they have a Texas license, my parents cannot carry with that Texas license in Florida, South Carolina, um, Colorado, or Michigan. So it's not recognized in those states because they're not a resident of Texas, but it is recognized in a lot of different states.
Nice. Next question. What trends do you see with black women taking the license to carry class in Texas?
Okay. I have seen a lot of black women just this weekend alone. I would say, probably 25% of the people that were in our class were black females, and they were there. They were eager to learn, um, wanted to learn how to shoot, wanted to, they asked questions, and I love that because they want to know what the laws were. Um, you know, how can they carry? Where can they carry? When can you shoot someone? Can I shoot him in the, can I shoot him in the back? So we, answer all those hard questions in class. That's why I like for people to come to class, ask those questions, because yes, my black females, my black males are definitely getting their license to carry handgun, and they are getting a firearm and protecting their family.
Indeed, and more specifically, women in general. When I took your class back in July, the majority of the class were women.
Hmm.
So women are
Hmm.
getting their license to carry.
They are. Because we
Hmm.
do, it's amazing. Our classes are packed. We will have,
Hmm.
we try to keep it to 20. Trying to get more than that because it can get out of control. Because we have to wear a face mask. Right nowadays, you have to wear a face mask in class the entire time. I check people's hands. I spray their hands like 2 or 3 times throughout the day.
Sure do.
So I have to do a hand check on you in a minute.
Hmm.
So, it with COVID-19, it's kind of changed our protocol a little bit. But yes, women are getting their license. They're coming to class.
Gotcha. Another question is, do police officers already know if um, a person has a handgun license?
Yeah, it depends on the state, but the majority of states, yes, it pops up in their computer. For example, in Texas, when they run your driver's license number, it pops up in their computer that you're a license holder. There's something that actually flashes, lets them know there's something there, so they can actually see that you're a license holder, and they'll know. So it's best to be forthcoming with that information. In Texas, you actually have to inform the officer that you're a license holder if you're carrying your handgun. You have a license, you have to tell them that when you hand them your driver's license anyway. And a lot of states are like that. You have to be forthcoming with that information.
Mhm. Next question is, what is the renewal process for your LTC?
All right. So for Texas, if your first license that you get is good for about 4 years and a few months, depending on when your birthday is. Every license after that is good for 5 years. You no longer have to take a class anymore. But I do encourage people to come back to class and get a refresher because it's a lot of information. I actually talk to people for about 4 hours in class, 4 or 5 hours, and it's solid information for 4 or 5 hours. And it's really hard to get all of that information and soak it all in because it's solid information that you really need to know. So it's best to come back to class because the first license is good for 4 years. Every license after that is good for 5 years. You no longer have to take class anymore.
Indeed, indeed, good information. Our next question is, if I wanted to sell a personal gun or guns, how would I go about transporting them to the point of sale legally? Long guns and handguns.
All right. So if you want to say that question one more time.
If I wanted to sell personal guns, how would I go about transporting them to the point of sale legally?
Okay. All right. So you have some firearms and you want to transport them. Um, and I always say, relate this to Texas because I'm talking about Texas laws. The laws do change in different states. So definitely find out, what you can and can't do in your state. Got to be careful about California. I don't know if anyone's in California. You have to be careful in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Maryland, Massachusetts. Be careful in those states. Also Illinois. If you're not in any of those states I just mentioned, then you can, like if you're in Texas, you're in the southern states, Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. You're in those states there. It's very easy. You can give someone a gun, gift them a gun. There's nothing difficult about that. For example, here in Texas, if you want to sell one of your firearms, you can. It's always good if you don't know someone, you don't know this person that you're selling your gun to. it's always good to meet them inside the gun store and then have that gun store do a federal firearms background check on them to make sure they're not a prohibited person. If it's a family member, that's a whole nother story. You're giving one of your guns or selling one of your guns to a family member, then you have that person's information. You know who you're selling the gun to. But someone else you don't know, it's always smart to meet them inside the gun store, have the gun store do a background check on them. You don't have to, but it's smart. And then that way you know that you're not passing one of your gun or selling one of your guns off to a prohibited person. And you can transport it in your vehicle. You can have it in your vehicle, long guns or handguns. Handguns must be concealed in the vehicle, and you can bring them inside the gun store.
Indeed. And it was actually a two-part question. They also asked if you are occupationally background checked, an example, a licensed realtor, does the FBI background check accelerate the gun license approval process?
No, it does not. So when you want to get your license, it doesn't matter if you're a doctor, lawyer, dentist, pharmacist, school teacher. You had your fingerprints done for any other thing. You'll still have to get the fingerprints and everything done again for the handgun license, and everything's from scratch.
Got it. Another question. This person previously had when they called it a CHL, concealed handgun license.
Mm-hmm.
Their license has expired. How would they go about that process after their CHL has expired?
Okay. If your license has expired more than 1 year, then you have to take the whole class all over again. Okay. So if it has not expired in more than 1 year, you can go ahead and renew. Okay. When it comes to renewing, you just go online to the DPS's website, pay the renewal fee, and they'll renew it. But if it's been more than 1 year, you have to take the full course, take the full class, the fingerprints, everything all over again.
Got it. Next question. Is the gun owner insurance really worth it to purchase?
Yes, because even though my parents were fully justified in doing what they did, my parents would have had to pay 10 grand. Now, this is important because even though you may be justified in defending yourself, and when it comes to, and I haven't talked about use of force and deadly force yet, so let me talk about that right now. When it comes to use of force and deadly force, let's say you're inside your vehicle. The way the laws are, the laws protect you while you're inside your vehicle. The law does not protect you outside of your vehicle. So let's say you're driving along and all of a sudden, there's a road rage incident and there's someone outside your vehicle. I have family members, they want to jump out their vehicle and kick this person's butt. I'm like, no, don't do that. You have to stay inside your vehicle, because if you get outside your vehicle and you get into a confrontation with someone, everyone's going to go to jail. But if you stay in your vehicle and if that person attempts to enter your vehicle while you're inside your vehicle, or they attempt to remove you from your vehicle, under the law, you can use force, deadly force to stop them when it comes to, for example, Texas. And all the laws are going to be different depending on the state that you live in. But in Texas, you can use, force or deadly force to stop that person if they try to enter your vehicle or remove you from your vehicle. Don't be so concerned with what's happening outside the vehicle. Let's say you're driving, on the road, and all of a sudden you come across, a group of Proud Boys or whoever it is, and they're pounding on your vehicle. Unfortunately, there's nothing that you can do about the fact that they're pounding on your vehicle. They're causing damage to your vehicle. There's nothing you can do except for get a good description of them, and then possibly sue them a little later. There's some civil recourse. So only thing you do is stay in your vehicle. Don't run them over. Okay, you can't shoot them through the vehicle, through the window or anything like that. But if they try to enter your vehicle, they try to remove you from your vehicle, then you can use force, deadly force to stop them. In a situation like that, you want to exercise your right to remain silent. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Because if you say the wrong thing when police show up, then that can change that whole scenario if you say the wrong words. It's always best to have an attorney talk for you if you have to pull your gun out and use it. Because all it takes is you saying the wrong thing that's been recorded on their uniform, through their uniform back to their vehicle, and then that changes what you just did. You'd be totally wrong and not justified because of what you said, not because of what you did. When you pull that gun out and use it, that is a $10,000 bullet. Even if you're fully justified, that is 10 grand. The reason that's 10 grand, because even though if you're fully justified in shooting someone, you're dead right. My parents were fully justified. This person was climbing on their second floor of their home, going to their master bathroom window on the second floor. My parents' case had to go to the DA, and that DA had to decide whether or not they were justified. In Texas, a lot of states, that's going to go to a grand jury. That grand jury is going to have to decide to either indict you, charge you, or no bill you, let you go, no charges, you're justified. Just to get to that grand jury phase, an attorney is going to charge you 10 grand to defend you just to the grand jury phase. There's a case here in Texas, White Settlement, Texas, where a guy walked into a church, started shooting up the church. And an instructor pulled out his handgun, shot this guy. That guy got an award from the governor of Texas. His case went to the grand jury. Luckily, me and him had the same attorney. We had the same. My attorney defended him, and of course he was justified. But because he had the same attorney that I have a legal plan. He was not charged 10 grand. But if he didn't have a legal plan, he would have been charged $10,000, even though he got an award from the governor. So wow. Yes, it is important for you to have a legal plan, because in a lot of these plans, there's one plan that I have. It costs $10 a month. My parents have that plan, and I wouldn't want my parents to have to pay 10 grand to defend themselves because someone's climbing to the second floor of their home. So it is worth it. So if you ever think that there's a possibility you may pull that gun out and use it, it is worth it.
So one quick question: when you mentioned somebody has to be trying to enter your vehicle or remove you from your vehicle.
That is correct.
So at that point, when they try to enter the vehicle, can you then step out?
No, never step out of your vehicle. The way the eyes of the court looks at that is you're safe inside your car. So stay inside your car. Don't ever get out of your vehicle. So if someone's trying to enter, stop them. They try to remove you, stop them. You're justified.
Got it. Someone asked about the information about you mentioned about cameras. Do you have any recommendations of what kind or where to get them?
Yeah, there's so much technology. There's so much out there. I use dash cam, but I think there's some better stuff that's out there now that's popping up. I've been seeing commercials for, so just do a little research. But I use dash cam. It works great and looks nice. It's nice and clear, and it records everything, audio, visual, and records you doing stuff wrong too. So be careful.
Indeed. You mentioned earlier about the originality of gun laws and how they were instilled to prevent Indians and black slaves from owning firearms or even getting their hands on them. But we had a conversation the other day that that law had a loophole where the slaves can get a hold of their master's gun.
That's correct.
So can you expound more on that?
Right. So there, in a lot of states, the slave, if you were a slave, you could have your master's, tools and use them. One of those tools was a firearm. But if you were a free slave, you couldn't have access to firearms, in a lot of states. So, and when it comes to like law enforcement and police, the reason the black community is so afraid of law enforcement is because you got to go back to 1600s and stuff like that. They use posses, police. That's basically what they are, posses, to go and recover runaway slaves. That was your law enforcement. That was your police. So, it grew from there, and that's where police officers started from. So once you know that, that's why, I get people in class that are deathly afraid of being pulled over by a police officer, get nervous, start shaking, sweating because of that, because they know that police officers, they're usually digging, searching, and trying to get something on you, and so it's something that we've never been treated for. We've never been treated for it. I think as a society, as a people, we've never gotten that therapy, to recover from that.
Indeed. Another question online: is the $10 a month insurance only good for Texas residents?
No, it's not. So the one that I use is Texas, and it's called U.S. Law Shield. There are a lot of programs out there, so do some research. The U.S. Law Shield is just the one that I use, and it's only $10 a month, and it's multiple states. And they provide bail money if they have to bail you out of jail. They will send someone to your house to feed your dogs or whatever needs to be done. They will notify someone that needs to be notified, like your employer, that something happened, you won't be at work the next day or whatever. So that stuff is very important because I know for the majority of people, something happens to you, you get arrested, even though you may be justified, but there's a possibility you still can be arrested, and you don't go to work the next day, you can lose your job. That starts a whole nother ball game. A lot of people can't afford to lose their job. So it's not just, it's a lot. It really is a lot. There's a lot that plays into having a legal plan.
Indeed, indeed. Someone asked if you could share the legal plan, legal plan's name or any other options that might be out
Right.
there.
Right. So the U.S. Law Shield, and then there's UCCA. That's also another one. Um, uh, the reason I did the Law Shield one, the U.S. Law Shield, is because all the other plans at first they were so expensive. It was like $400 or $500 a year, and then this program came along. It was just so much cheaper, and I've just stuck with them. And they've never lost a case. They defended my parents. They defended some of my college students. Because I do a lot of talking at universities, at University of Texas, and we were during that time frame. I After the incident that happened with my parents, I pushed for campus carry to be passed in the state of Texas, so that licensed holders can carry their handguns on a college campus. That was actually me pushing that because I wanted all my siblings. I wanted my siblings to be able to protect themselves when they went to college, traveling back and forth to college. Um, so um, they defended some college students in different little incidents that actually happened, surround us trying to get that pass.
You mentioned college. It made me think about the incident that happened on UT's campus with it was a stabbing incident,
Yes.
and there was a law. I forget you mentioned it in our class,
Hmm.
but now knives are regulated. But when you mentioned like shotguns and assault rifles aren't, can
Right.
you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So when it comes to like long guns, you can, if I want to openly carry a rifle and walk across a campus, a college campus, you can actually do that. That goes all the way back to like the 1800s
Mm,
when it comes to like open carry of long guns. That goes back to 1870 to be exactly. Ever since 1870, you can open carry a long gun in Texas, and you can, if you want to go, if I want to walk from south of Austin to North Austin and walk through UT campus, as long as I don't go into the building, I can open carry an AR-15 and walk across that campus. Don't go in the building. That's totally legal. Um, when it comes to like knives and stuff like that, you you cannot take a knife with a length of blades over 5.5 inches inside the building of a college campus. So we regulate knives, and they regulate knives mainly because of the UT stabbing that happened, and
mm,
that was because in 2017 um, they decided they were going to actually loosen the knife laws in Texas. They were going to loosen them up a little bit. And said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of illegal knives in Texas. Make sure that there are no more illegal knives. And then the day that they were going to debate this bill at Texas Capitol to remove illegal knives, they had the UT stabbing that morning. And so they said, okay, before we get rid of illegal knives, we want to make sure there's certain places that you cannot take a knife with a length of the blades over 5.5 inches. So there's certain places you cannot take a knife with a length of the blades over 5.5 inches, and that happens to be a college campus and some other places.
that's crazy. Okay, I'm gonna skip the question. Someone asked, how do you register a firearm or remove your name from a firearm that's registered under you?
Very popular question. All right, so there's no such thing as gun registration, not in Texas. Now, if you're in New Jersey, New York, that's a different story. California, that's a different story. There's gun registration in Connecticut, places like that. But in Texas, you don't have to register a gun here in Texas. Most of your southern states, you don't have to register, any firearms there. So if, let's say you inherited 20 guns from your great grandfather. Congratulations, you inherited 20 guns from your great grandfather. There's no such thing as taking that gun out of your great grandfather's name and putting it into your name. That does not exist. Just congratulations, enjoy those guns. You just inherited some guns.
I did not
Um,
know that.
that's
Wow.
right. So if you want to, a lot of people say, well, how do I get this gun out of my name? I want to give it to someone else, a family member, but I want to get it out of my name. Well, there's no such thing. That does not exist. You cannot take a gun. There's no taking a gun out of your name. Um, when it comes to tracing guns back, when the law enforcement, they want to trace a gun to figure out if a gun's been stolen, using a crime or whatever. They want to trace the origin of a gun. What they do is they go to the manufacturer, say, hey, manufacturer, who'd you sell the gun to? And this is all done really quick. Manufacturer says, hey, I sold this gun to this distributor. They say, okay, well, who'd you sell the gun to? Distributor says, hey, I sold this gun to this gun store, Central Texas Gun Works. They come to me. They say, hey, Michael, who'd you sell this gun to? I have it in my database, my system. Gun stores are the database for law enforcement, for basically the ATF. So if the ATF wants to know, who a gun went to. They go to the gun store. They say, hey, you know, who'd you sell this gun to? I say, hey, I sold this gun to this person right here, and because we're their database. The only way they can find out what guns you actually own is a little secret that a lot of people don't know. In Texas or any state that borders another country, Canada, whether it's Canada or Mexico, if you border another country, if you buy two handguns or more in a 5 day period, or two loan guns or more in a 5 day period, that gun store has to report you to the FBI and a chief law enforcement officer where you live. So if a person walks into the gun store today, which someone did, and they bought two handguns, well, there's a form that I fill out, everything about them, everything that's on their driver's license, everything they put on that form, everything about the gun, the make and model, serial number of the gun, and I fax that into the FBI and also fax it into the Travis County Sheriff's Department. All got done today. That's if you buy two handguns or more in a 5 day period or two long guns in a 5 day period. Now, because the type of federal firearms license dealer that I am, I have a manufacturer's license. I don't have to report long gun sales. So I only focus on the handgun sales because I have a manufacturer's license. Unfortunately, the way the law is written, because I'm a manufacturer, I don't have to do that. It's less paperwork for me. So just the handgun sales. So that's the only way they can find out.
Wow. I'm learning stuff while we're on here.
It's a lot of information.
Yeah. So we're getting short on time. So I did want to touch on some of the controversial shootings that have happened recently because we're short on time. So one of the first ones was Ahmaud Arbery. Happened in Brunswick, in Georgia, or near Brunswick, Glenn County.
Jogging, right?
Yeah, he was jogging. It was said that he been reported for trespassing on a unattended property, and some guys came in their truck, father and son, and confronted him and ended up shooting him.
Right.
So from a legal standpoint, how does that pan out?
Okay. All right. Just because someone's, there are crimes that people can commit, and there's nothing that we as regular civilians can do anything about. Okay.
Mhm.
A mere fact of trespass, there's nothing that me as a civilian, I can't do anything. If someone's committing trespass, I can't do anything. If they're committing criminal trespass, meaning that I've called the police showed up. They've told this guy to leave, don't come back, or just leave. If the person refuses to leave or they come back, then they can be charged with criminal trespass. At best, the only thing I can do in a situation like that is push them off the property. If it's criminal trespass, that's it. I can't use deadly force. You can't use deadly force because someone's committing criminal trespass. Right?
Mm.
So let's say I'm the neighbor across the street, the way Texas law is written. So I'm a neighbor across the street. This person is jogging in my neighborhood, and I see them go into someone's house across the street. That house is under construction. There are no walls. They go inside. At best, that's trespass. I can't do anything. They go inside. They take something. They steal something, and they run down the street with it. I can chase them down and recover that property immediately after in fresh pursuit, because now that becomes burglary by way of theft, because now they took something. So then it changes. Now I can use deadly force to stop them to recover that property back, as long as I cannot recover that property by any other means. Okay, I can use deadly force to stop them, even if that means shooting them in the back. Now, the question is, did he take anything? No, he did not. So since he didn't take anything, he goes inside, he comes out, he continues jogging down the road. They chased him. You can't chase somebody. You don't have law enforcement powers. Only thing you can do is call the police and tell them that you suspect this person of doing something, give that person's description, and let the police do the investigation. We don't have investigative powers. You cannot chase someone down the road, block them. This guy, they chased him, he changed directions. They chased him, he changed directions. They chased him. He stopped. He decided to, stop and fight. And then they shot him. Not justified. They were totally not justified. And they should go to jail for the rest of their life, because they're not police. You don't have a right to, you're not a one-armed security team trained to clear an entire building.
Most definitely.
And then I like to compare that one to the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting, because that one there, 17 years old, he should have been at home in bed. He never should have been out, with a rifle or in a whole nother state. To me, that's bad parenting. But then I get past that point. I said, okay, fine, let's get past that point. So he's in Wisconsin. And I want to know, why are you in Wisconsin with a rifle? How did you get there? Well, in Wisconsin, you can actually have a rifle if you have a hunting license, and also if you are with an adult, then you can have it. So was he with an adult? Do you have a hunting license? I don't know. We'll find out. I guess his attorneys will find out from that. So then, okay, so he's in Wisconsin. At this he's removing graffiti from the high school. Someone asked him to go to this car dealership, to be at the car dealership to help protect it. So then he started doing that. So okay, so they're there at the car dealership. There's a group of people, and all of a sudden, someone tries to set fire to a trash can at the dealership. They're trying to set the fire out. Someone's trying to set the fire. They're trying to put it out. So then the person got upset with them trying to put the fire out. So they go to chase this guy. They chase him. He runs. Someone fires a shot, across the street behind him. This guy tries to grab his rifle. He pulls back. He shoots him. I think he's going to be justified in that situation. So then he runs because they say, get this MF. He runs. They chase him. He runs. He falls. When he fails, someone tried to kick him in his face. Another person tried to bash him in his face with a skateboard. The third person, the last person, approached him with a handgun in his left hand to try to shoot him. He pulled up his rifle. He shot that person, shot the other person, shot the first person. Boom. I think he was going to be justified. I look at that as the same as Ahmaud Arbery, because they chased him. He ran. Ahmaud didn't have a gun. Rittenhouse did.
Hmm.
And to me, that was the same type of situation. One had a gun and one didn't have a gun.
Man. So let's stay in Georgia for another second. So Rayshard Brooks,
Mm,
he was sitting in the Wendy's parking lot, intoxicated. Um, I think a Wendy's employee gave a call to police. They got dispatched. They pull him over to the side to get out of line. He gets out of the car. They evaluate him. They do the breathalyzer on him. They said that, okay, we're about to arrest you, even though
right,
he didn't appear to be intoxicated. Well, maybe so, but even then they try to arrest him. So he resists arrest.
right,
He grabs one of the police officers' taser and
mm,
begins to run away.
right,
How does that happen in a legal standpoint? Because then they end up shooting him in the back while he was
right,
fleeing. So
right.
how does that pan out?
Now there's a statute in Texas law, is Penal Code Section 9.42, where it talks about deadly force, in protecting of property.
Mhm.
You say property, you think property. Why did you bring up property, Michael? Well, because if I was to take something from you, to steal something from you, or say take something from you with force and run away with it, you
Mhm.
can use force, deadly force, to stop me to get that property back immediately after in fresh pursuit, even if that means shooting me in the back. That's the only time you're able to shoot someone in the back. Is that if you're trying to recover some property immediately after in fresh pursuit and you can't recover by any other means. That is so. For example, let's say I come home. I come home one day. I drive in my driveway, and someone's coming out of my front door with all my stuff, and they're running down the street with it. I can chase that person down the street, shoot them to get my stuff back immediately after fresh pursuit. And so the and it hurts me to my core. But I think they're going to get off from that, mainly because of that right there, because there are little things in the law, and all that stuff goes back to like 1800s, 1700s, recovering free slaves and things of that nature. All that stuff goes back to that.
And that's Texas law, more
That is
specific.
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And
So
Georgia law is going to be very similar.
okay. And another quick question. Gun laws in churches, or guns in churches in
Oh
Texas.
yes. Oh yeah, I believe in praising the Lord and passing the ammunition. So let me tell you, let me tell you right now. That's right. I'll be the first one to tell you. My great grandfather used to have a Bible, boy. He sit in the pulpit, he had a Bible, and that little Bible he would open up, he had a little hole cut out in the middle of that Bible. He said, I like to bring everyone the Lord. And I always had that Bible with him. It was an AME church, African American Episcopal Church. I like to
Yes,
bring
sir.
everyone the Lord. My great grandfather would open up that Bible, in the middle of that Bible, there's a hole cut out. He reached in that Bible, take out this revolver. He said, if I cannot bring them to the Lord, I will send them to the Lord. So I'm here to
Indeed.
I'm here
Yes,
to tell
sir.
you.
Oh
So yes,
man.
in Texas, yes, you can actually, with a license, you can carry a handgun inside of a church. You can do that ever since 2000 and let me see, go back. Sorry, ever since 1997. Ever since 1997, a person with a license can carry a handgun inside of a church. That's been legal since then.
Mm.
And a church
Okay.
can prohibit you. All the church has to do is tell you verbally that you cannot. They can verbally ask you to leave or post a 30.06 or 30.07 sign to tell you not to bring the gun inside the church.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. So we're at 8 o'clock, but I have one more question
Go for it.
and I have one more shooting. So we're gonna
Okay.
close after that, and I'll bring brother President Harold Flournoy in to close us out. So Jacob Blake,
Yes.
Kenosha, Wisconsin. Um, it was one piece of footage where he was walking away from police officers around his vehicle. He
Hmm.
opened the door. They kept telling him, "Don't open the door. Don't open the door." He reaches in to the car, not knowing what he was gonna pull out, but then shot him right there. And
Mm.
it turned out he didn't have a gun. So
Oh,
from a
is
legal
that the?
standpoint,
That's the one where. That's the one where they follow him to the vehicle. They reach into the
yeah,
vehicle. I think
indeed,
they're saying there was a knife there, but I don't even think honestly I don't think they saw a knife. I don't think they
yeah,
knew that there was a knife there. They just saw him reach
mm,
into the vehicle.
mm,
And I, to me, I'll be honest with you, law enforcement, majority of them are just scared. They're scared, and there was no reason to even. You have the upper hand. You're standing there with your hand on your gun. There's no. You could have waited a second. What's going on? Let's talk about this. What are you doing? Because we see time and time after again. When they run into different situations and they're running to other people, and they will fight with this person. They'll chase this person. They'll talk them out of it. This person will have a gun in their hand, and they will still try to talk them and calm them down and stuff like that. But when it comes to black males, there's something about black males, and it goes all the way back to, we go back as far as you want to go back. It's something about black men. They're afraid of black men that, it is that mentality, and it's hard to get them out of that mentality. So that's why I tell people, you find yourself, get involved with law enforcement, try to remain calm, don't get loud. There's a traffic stop here um, that was in Arizona, and where a young black man got pulled over by police, and the officers pulled him over because he had an air freshener. And I covered this on my radio show this past Sunday. He had an air freshener on his rearview mirror, and the officer pulled him over because he said the air freshener was blocking your view. And then the whole time he's asking this guy, "Do you have any weed inside the vehicle? Is there any coke, cocaine, guns, any weapons, anything?" He was like, "No, I'm going to see my father." And he said, "Well, why you got your hands on the steering wheel in 10 and 2?" He goes, "This is when I'm relaxed at 10 and 2." He said, "I'm answering your questions." He remained calm. That stop could have gone a totally different way if he didn't remain calm. If he would have got agitated, got irritated, started getting loud, that cop was looking for a reason to get into this guy's car and possibly shoot him or do something to him. But he didn't give it to him. He refused to give it to him. He kept control of the situation by remaining calm. And then you know what? He sued. Officer was fired, and that's how you handle it.
I saw that video actually. So last question of the night. I don't know if we talked about it much, but when you're a licensed to carry holder, there are stricter laws in place for you.
Mm,
In particular, with drinking alcohol or in
mm,
consuming alcohol. So can you touch on, say I'm out drinking at a bar, I have a few beers, I attempt to drive home, but I have a concealed weapon in my vehicle. If I were to get pulled over by police
mm.
and they search the vehicle, they breathalyze me, see I'm intoxicated, they find the weapon in the car, what would happen to me?
You're going to be held to a much higher standard. You cannot be intoxicated as a license holder with a handgun in your vehicle. You cannot be intoxicated. You got to have your mental faculties. When they're talking about intoxicated, they're not just talking about alcohol. I see someone says weed. That's right. They're talking about everything. When they say everything, they're talking about any and everything. They're thinking everything. So you cannot be intoxicated. You got to have your normal faculties. So if you get pulled up by police, um, and an officer thinks you're intoxicated, even if you're walking, let's say you're walking down the street, you can be walking and have a gun and a license, and you're walking, and the officer thinks you're intoxicated, you can be charged with a Class A misdemeanor unlawfully carrying. If you're in your vehicle with a license carrying a handgun, you can be charged a much higher standard. If I'm in my vehicle and I don't have a license, but I have a handgun in the vehicle, you're held to a regular standard, point oh 0.08 before you get a DUI. But a license and a handgun, you're held to a much higher standard. You can be charged with a Class A misdemeanor for having that handgun in the vehicle and being intoxicated with a license.
What if I'm not the one driving?
Even if you're not the one driving, even if you're walking, you're a passenger, your guns in the guns in the vehicle, or your guns in the vehicle, you have a license, held to a much higher standard.
So I can even call a Uber and the Uber driver has a gun in the car.
In a situation like in a situation like that, close. That's good. That's a good one. You're going to be in the back seat. No, you're good.
Okay.
So you're
Okay.
good.
Okay. Indeed. Indeed. I
Yeah.
appreciate you, Mr. Cargill. It was wonderful. I'm gonna bring our president in now to close us out, Brother Harold Fanoy.
Mr. Cargill, how are you this evening?
All right, sir. How you doing?
Doing well. Thank you so much for doing this for us on this evening. I thoroughly enjoyed it. You've brought forth so much information, and I know I've watched the amount of people that have logged on and off and participated with us tonight, and I already know that. I mean, there's more questions than you can even answer in the hour that we've had you. My mind is actually spinning, but I don't want to take up the more time. But I hope for all those that are out there listening to us this evening, I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope that you've learned something. Continue to put information in the chat, and Mr. Cargill, I hope that this won't be the last time. If there's any way that we can bring you back on again, because I really think, especially when we got to talking about the real cases, things that are taking place that we're all aware of, those things will really help us understand. And can I take it a step further? I think that it'll help us maybe even understand why people are getting off, why things are happening. Because I mean, I have an ongoing thing with me and my wife. When things like this would happen or have happened, I try to call it from the front end and say they're not going to jail. There's and not because I'm a black man and not because of but because of the way the law is set up. I think about Breonna Taylor. When that first happened, the first thing I said, there is no way in the world, because they quote unquote had a warrant and all that, and I won't politicize the case out in here, but I just felt like from when I first heard the stats, or the information, I said, well, I can't see it happen, even though she is dead. And so I think it's important for us, as a fraternity, black men, but then as a people of black people, and that we have this platform to be able to continue to inform individuals. And so I just want to again thank you and applaud you for all that you're doing in Central Texas. Your shop down in South Austin, I want to thank you for that. I know it's your business, but for you coming out in this type of environment to continue to inform, I think is very helpful. So on behalf of the Gamma Eta Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha, we thank you so much for spending this time with us. And we hope, we can get some more time from you later on down the line and bring you back on, because I think, again, this is something that we not only need, but based on what I'm seeing now, people really want it. And so, again, I just wanted to thank you. I don't know if you have any final comments or anything. That's all I really wanted to say. Nothing major. But did you have any final comments for the viewers or anything like that?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And anytime you want me, give me a call. Richard knows how to get in touch with me. I'll be glad to, come in and talk to you. And once again, my company name is Central Texas Gunworks. You can Google us. Look for us. There's a CNN special that's going to come out. Also, there's an HBO special that's going to come out. We're going to have some stuff come out on Vice News as well, because I like to, let people know that, they're good. They're positive things that people in the black community are doing, not all the negative stuff that people see on the news and stuff like that. There are a lot of positive things out there, that we're doing.
Absolutely. And so all of y'all that are out there right now, if you're looking for a firearm, go see this gentleman. Look him up, Central Texas Gun Works. Let's procure his business if we can. Let's give support to this business. And I'm quite sure if he's in the office when you come in or in the shop, you can let him know where you heard of him from. And I think you get you a good conversation in while you have him in person. Again, thank you, Brother North. Thank you, Mr. Cargill. Brothers that are out there that are listening, thank y'all for logging in. To all of those other listeners that are supporting us, our friends, family, and all of those that have logged in tonight, thank you so much. Again, this is the Gamma Eta Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated, located here in Austin, Texas, the great state of Texas. We're thankful for you logging in tonight, and we're going to sign off now. Looking forward to having you back with us again. If you're a YouTube viewer, go ahead and click a like and become a make sure that you know when we're going live. Same thing with Facebook. And again, thank y'all so much. Y'all have a great night and a happy holiday.